Well, we've made some entrances in our time. This has got to be one of the most special, I would have thought.
This is ridiculous when you think of the people that have driven in vehicles and pulled up to this grand entrance.
Across the red, crunching gravel into the grand entrance of Buckingham Palace. The original Buckingham House, because the front balcony part wasn't built until much later. And
presidents and prime ministers, I think,
all got out of their cars, not necessarily cabs. But let me open the door for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And here we are. I feel like we should curtsy. Hello and welcome to a very special edition of This Morning, live from Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, to celebrate the Queen's historic Platinum Jubilee for the next hour, we are joining you from inside Her Majesty's magnificent London home.
We did it. We just walked through the front entrance. It's incredible. We're going to be exploring some of the palace's incredible staterooms, as well as the gardens and the kitchens.
Do you want to have a look that way? Have a look over there.
There's the beautiful fireplace.
Around, Ollie, gonna have a look at that. And then on the other side, the most beautiful grand staircase. We're walking up that a little bit later on and showing you what's at the top of us.
Do you think that's where Cinderella's shoe fell down?
Well, yours nearly fell off earlier on, so
it
quite
did.
possibly. Hundreds of famous faces have walked through those doors, including, as we said, politicians, sports stars, musicians, writers, actors, presidents.
It is also here that the Queen welcomes visitors on the first day of state visit. To our left is the amazing staircase. This is what Phil was explaining to you earlier. We're going to be going up there a little bit later when we take a look inside the picture gallery, where some of the most famous artists in the world have their paintings framed upon those walls.
Walking up now to the marble hallway. Lots of white and red and gold in the colour scheme, which was introduced by King Edward VII in 1901.
He also brought these incredible sculptures to the palace, which you can see over here, after they were commissioned by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert.
Continuing now into the music is fantastic, into the
really
bow room, which was originally intended to be a library before being redecorated in 1853.
Well, the royal family uses this room on special occasions, such as the 100th birthday of the Queen Mother in 2000.
It leads beautifully to the palace's immaculate lawn, where the Queen famously hosts her annual garden parties.
Are you ready for this view? Are you ready? This is a bit special.
There we go.
Now, you see these garden parties on telly, and these sort of lawns are filled with people hustling and bustling, all having a wonderful time, hoping to glimpse the Queen or a member of the royal family. And today we have it to ourselves, just us and This Morning.
Which is mad. They're mowing the lawns at Buckingham Palace. And you don't very often. I suppose the seagulls get a last bit here to have a look at the remains of the cucumber sandwiches from the last garden party.
That's so true. Oh, so lovely.
It is, for a central London garden, it is extraordinary how peaceful it is. And anyone who gets the chance to have a look around, it really is quite a tranquil place.
Yeah, it's very special. We've been all morning.
Yeah, can't wait to
see a little door.
Look everywhere. Can't wait to show you around. But before we head back inside, here's a look at what we've got planned for today. It's home to beehives, mulberry trees, and a 3.5-acre lake. David Dominy will be taking us on a tour of these beautiful Buckingham Palace gardens.
As the Queen's annual garden parties get underway, Phil Vickery is offering a helping hand in the kitchen as he joins head chef Chris Tomling.
She's given us 70 years of majestic style. Gok Wan will be looking back at some of the Queen's crowning fashion moments. Morning, Gok.
Morning.
Good morning. I can't believe that I'm in the picture gallery with one of Her Majesty Queen's outfits right next to us. We're going to be talking about all of her style over the years. What a privilege. I'm pinching myself right now.
It is such a privilege. That's exactly what it is. He brought Eurovision glory back to the UK. As he prepares to perform at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee concert, we'll be speaking to Sam Ryder about his meteoric rise to fame.
So, David Dominy will be exploring the Buckingham Palace garden at 10:15.
Phil Vickery's taking us inside the royal kitchens at 10:25.
Gox looking back at the Queen's iconic fashion choices at 11:45.
And we'll be speaking to Sam Ryder just before 11.
But before all of that, we are delighted to be joining you and this really very rare privilege to be broadcasting live from Buckingham Palace. What a truly exceptional year for the Queen.
Well, in February, Her Majesty became Britain's longest reigning monarch and the first in history to celebrate a platinum jubilee.
Well, in just a moment, we'll be reflecting on the extraordinary milestone with Giles Brandreth.
But first, we're taking a look back at the Queen's 70 years on the throne and the remarkable role that she's played in history.
It was on June the 2nd, 1953, 1 year after her accession to the throne, that the nation came together to celebrate the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. It was the beginning of service to her country that has lasted more than 70 years, making her the longest reigning monarch in the nation's history.
And it was fitting that this would be the first coronation to be broadcast on television, as Her Majesty was at the start of a journey that would keep her very much in the public eye through the highs and lows of 7 decades on the throne.
Come fly with me, let's
It was a grand beginning to a great tour.
The Queen's reign commenced with her longest ever tour of the Commonwealth nations, as the royal family spent over 6 months visiting countries across the globe.
For goodness sake!
The 60s would see mankind take... Whilst in Britain, everything got smaller, with miniskirts becoming all the rage. And in scenes that predated Beatlemania, crowds surged to glimpse US President JFK's arrival at Buckingham Palace in 1961.
Congratulations!
Already mother to Charles and Anne before her coronation, the 60s saw Her Majesty welcome 2 more sons, Andrew and Edward, not to mention 1 World Cup, as the Queen joined in England's celebration of its historic victory.
The 70s saw Britain go decimal, the election of the first female Prime Minister and the arrival of colour TV, on which in November 1973 the nation watched, along with 500 million worldwide.
The bride and groom.
Princess Anne married Captain Mark Phillips. Her Majesty once again travelled extensively and met with President Gerald Ford. Just a year later, in 1977, more dancing followed, this time on the streets of Britain.
My thanks go also to the many who have sent me messages of congratulations on my Silver Jubilee.
In the 80s, telephones went mobile, well, sort of, and July the 29th, 1981, was a nice day for a white wedding.
Together after God's ordinance.
As 750 million people watched Charles and Diana tie the knot.
The celebrations continued. In 1982,
Good evening. It's a boy.
with the birth of Her Majesty's 3rd grandchild, Prince William, and his brother, Prince Harry,
I was christened in this.
followed 2 years later. In official duties, the Queen became the first monarch to visit China and once again did a little bit of dancing, this time more informally.
Sadly, there wasn't much to dance about in the 90s, with the fire at Windsor Castle and, of course, the tragic death of Diana, Princess of Wales.
She was the people's princess.
We can only imagine that Her Majesty was pleased to say goodbye to that decade and welcome in the new millennium.
At the end of the 90s, royal celebrations might have seemed a shade uneasy, but the House of Windsor had weathered the storm.
The new millennium marked a string of happy royal occasions, starting with the Queen Mother's 100th birthday. Prince Charles's marriage to Camilla Parker Bowles in 2005 followed by a second fairy tale wedding,
Oh, wow, indeed.
when Catherine Middleton married her very own Prince Charming.
The Golden Jubilee followed in 2012 and saw the Queen visit 70 cities in Great Britain.
A year later, William and Kate's first son, Prince George, was born
There was a little help with the royal wave.
and was followed by brother and sister, Charlotte and Louis.
On a gloriously sunny day in 2018, the UK monarchy met Hollywood royalty for the wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, followed by the birth of their children, Archie and Lilibet.
Who does he take after? Does he look like anyone?
We're still trying to figure that out.
For 70 years, the Queen has served the nation with a quiet dignity.
So now, as the nation prepares to mark her many achievements, where better for this morning to join in the celebrations than here at Buckingham Palace? Happy Jubilee, Your Majesty. The first British monarch to reach 70 years on the throne in history, and it shows how progressive Her Majesty is. The fact that we're actually allowed to broadcast in here now. We're with Giles in the Bow Room. Good morning.
Good morning.
Isn't it exciting?
Actually,
what a 70th anniversary, unique in our history, and here we are in Buckingham Palace, in the Bow Room.
So explain the Bow Room.
The Bow Room, well, it's called the Bow Room because of the bow window, but this is the room where if you are an incoming ambassador or a high commissioner or a high court judge just been appointed, you wait here before going through that door where the Queen will give you, well, you will give her your credentials. She now does it on Zoom from Windsor, but in other times, does it here in person. You go in and you have a chat with her there, and if you are going to be a High Court judge and you're knighted, she will actually knight you in there using her father's sword. She's quite a traditionalist.
And am I right in saying that you were told off by the Duke of Edinburgh in this very room?
I was, because the room is also used for functions of different kinds. And the reason I've been here over a number of years is because of an involvement with a charity called the National Playing Fields Association. I'm wearing the tie as the proud vice president. The Duke of Edinburgh was the president. Prince William is now. The Queen is the patron. And standing in this room, doing a fundraising speech, I thought it was going rather well. I had a voice behind me saying, "Oh, shut up." Oh, get on with it, man. Get on. We've heard this before. And I began a story, I thought rather a good story, about my first visit. He said, this isn't true. This isn't true. Oh, for goodness. And it was both amusing and also quite terrifying. Because he could be, well, as you know, because you interviewed him, he could be great fun, but he could also be quite frightening. But I learned
always
something...
said it with a smile on his face.
Always said with a smile on his face.
As I walked up towards him, he'd go, "Oh, God, not you again," but had a wry smile.
Yes, a wry smile. The first time I came through this room was many years ago, when I came to a garden party, and I was very young, in the 1970s. And I met in the garden James Callaghan, who was the Prime Minister. And I said, "Oh, you're the Prime Minister, sir. How marvellous, you're now friends with the Queen." He said, "Oh, hold on." He said, "Remember this, young man. Royalty, they offer you friendliness, not friendship. Don't ever forget the difference."
That's good advice.
Which was very good advice.
What about the palace in general?
The palace itself, Duke of Buckingham, Buckingham House is what it was originally called, and then George III acquired it for Queen Charlotte, and then George IV actually turned it into a proper palace. It's really associated with Queen Victoria. She made it into both the headquarters of the monarchy and her home. And now we associate it so much with the balcony where the people wave. And these garden parties out here, 8,000 people come. It's very much open to the public now. There's an art gallery, the gardens are there for everyone to meet. And if you go to a garden party, have you been to garden parties?
I have done one.
Well, you know what happens. They're these gentlemen ushers with the furled umbrellas, and they keep an eye on you, and everyone's put into lines. And then if you're going to have a nice meeting, somebody with an umbrella comes and says, you know, Her Majesty would like to have a word, and you go along.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Everybody's hoping to capture at least a glimpse of the Queen. And the very first time you met her was whilst you were at university. I
did. I was very lucky. I was at university. She came to visit the union, the Students' Union, the Oxford Union, and I was there. I was presented to her. And it was raining. And I felt it was very bad that she was being made to carry her own umbrella. And I reprimanded whoever was with her. I mean, the impertinence of a 19-year-old. And he explained to me, no, the sovereign likes to carry her own umbrella because when other people hold it for her, the rain trickles down her neck. But it's nerve-wracking. Meeting the Queen is always nerve-wracking.
She must hear so much nonsense spoken by
people. Well, people lose their way. They forget what they're saying. My wife... I fear she will be watching, so she'll hear me say this. She wouldn't let me bring you the photograph. My wife, when she first met the Queen, she forgot to curtsy. And then halfway through the conversation, she suddenly remembered to curtsy. So in the middle of something, she began to curtsy, and her head fell forward onto the Queen. But these things happen. It is quite nerve-wracking.
And also, we know that the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince of Wales all have great senses of humour and love it when things go wrong because it stops the boredom.
And they're interested in the people. The one thing I remember vividly about the Duke of Edinburgh being with the Queen is how he protected her.
Yeah.
And that is something that she will miss. He was marvellous at keeping the photographers out of the way. Out of the way! People want to see the Queen. And when they were together, he always made sure that she was the centre of attention. He stood back. It's fantastic.
And probably one of the few people that treats her like a normal person, which I imagine for her is...
There is an invisible moat around the Queen. Nobody treats the Queen quite normally. You know, her children bow and curtsy to her at the beginning of the day. Nobody is quite normal with the Queen, except for the Duke of Edinburgh. He could actually, you know, treat her like a woman, like a wife.
Yeah.
And only the Queen could say to the Duke of Edinburgh, "Oh, Philip, do shut up." And she did.
Giles, thank you. Thank you.
Right, still to come with Phil Vickery's scones gets, well, hoping they'll get the Royal Seal of Approval, although it's already caused something
It's been a bit of an
upset here this morning. I'll tell you about that. We're going to be taking you inside the Buckingham Palace kitchens as they prepare for one of the Queen's garden parties.
And it's been described as an oasis within the heart of London. David Dominy will be exploring Her Majesty's grounds. That's all right after this break. Welcome back to Buckingham Palace, where we're joining you from the beautiful gardens.
In 10 minutes' time, Phil Vickery is giving us a glimpse inside the royal kitchens as he learns how to make the perfect scone.
First, as you can see behind us, beyond the brick walls of Buckingham Palace lies 39 acres of immaculate garden.
Well, after being invited to spend the day exploring the grounds, David Dominy is taking us on a tour of this secret sanctuary.
Breathtaking, grand and steeped in history. You'd be forgiven if you thought I was talking about the palace, because actually, the grounds that the palace sits amongst are just as majestic, interesting and impressive. Welcome to the Buckingham Palace garden. At 39 acres, this is the largest private garden in the capital and boasts 325 types of wild plants and more than 1,000 trees, including 4 planted to celebrate the birth of Her Majesty's children. Touring these magnificent gardens, it's clear to see just how much pride the Queen takes in her gardens. And she loves nature, a passion we have seen throughout her reign as she's planted countless trees around the globe.
There we are.
And although this may be the Queen's private garden, Her Majesty regularly invites guests to enjoy these glorious grounds with her for royal events, such as the Queen's garden parties.
Now here's an attention to detail. One of the pruning guides to the trees near the party lawn is lower branches are all trimmed off. So when somebody walks underneath it with a top hat, it doesn't get knocked off.
There are areas in the garden where the landscaping is a lot more natural, and for good reason.
Now you would naturally expect the whole of the palace garden to be immaculately cut and trimmed to shape. But there are other visitors than the guests, of course, and that's the wildlife. And there are big areas around here that have been left to go wild, which is perfect habitats for the little creatures that visit.
The garden provides habitat for native birds rarely seen in London, including the common sandpiper, sedge warbler and lesser whitethroat. And it was the birds that Queen Victoria's consort, Prince Albert, particularly enjoyed admiring.
Right here is where Prince Albert used to come to feed the birds. In fact, they used to feed straight out of his hands, and he wanted this island here to be transformed into a nature reserve right in the heart of London. But looking round here now, it doesn't feel as if I'm in the city at all.
The birds come and go, but there are some more permanent residents here in the palace garden.
Now, you're familiar with the term Queen Bee. Well, let me introduce you to the Queen's bees. There's 5 hives of little bees, all producing anywhere up to 200 jars of honey for the Queen's kitchen every year.
300 years ago, the wildlife in the garden was slightly more exotic. In the 18th century, the then called Buckingham House first came into royal ownership when it was bought by George III. His consort, Queen Charlotte, kept a collection of exotic animals, including an elephant and one of the first zebras ever seen in England. and each monarch who's lived here since has left their mark on the garden.
Now this beautiful giant vase here was originally commissioned by Napoleon as a celebration for winning the Battle of Waterloo, which of course didn't go to plan and he was defeated. And eventually it ended up with his arch rival, the future King George IV. I think it looks quite nice there.
Even the lake has a tale.
During the winter time, back in Victorian times, it used to freeze right over, and ice skaters were known to actually get on and have a little skate up and down. And one of those ice skaters, rumoured, was Prince Albert. And whilst he was out there, the ice broke and he actually went into the water. Now, the person that went in and saved him was, in fact, Queen Victoria. This garden is absolutely full of fascinating stories.
Today, the garden is incredibly serene and bursting with colour.
There are an impressive 24 rose beds here in the garden, with on average about 60 roses per bed. They look marvellous, and many of them were planted for special occasions.
The Royal William Rose was planted to mark the birth of Prince William, and this stunning yellow rose was gifted to the Queen and Prince Philip for their golden wedding anniversary.
Now, if you're looking for a touch of royalty in your own garden, you can't go far wrong than a rose. And it's not just the beauty of how it looks. Ooh, it's the beautiful fragrance that you get with it.
So the Queen can enjoy that fragrance inside the palace. A posy of flowers from the garden is presented to Her Majesty every week, a tradition which was started over 30 years ago.
There are so many things that have impressed me about this garden. It's not just about the beauty. It's just that every ornament, every plant, every tree has a story, and that's what makes it special.
Very nice.
Well,
very
beautiful.
Nice.
After that wonderful look around the garden, David is joining us now on the terrace of Buckingham Palace. And before we should begin, we should point out this beautiful rose that you're wearing.
That's right. This is the Platinum Jubilee Rose. It was launched yesterday at the Chelsea Flower Show, so I thought I'd pick one and
it
wear
smells
it today.
beautiful. It's really
gorgeous.
Fragrance.
Lovely fragrance with it as well. And it's all about gardens and plants being memories. And the whole story is about Buckingham Palace and the garden here with so many personal things in there. And I think that's what a garden is. I mean, to the royal family, it's not just a personal garden for themselves, but behind here we can see a large expanse of lawn. It's for one of the biggest entertainment venues for all the garden parties. But what I like here as well, there's also the wildlife section as well, which is giving so many positive habitats to birds and insects and amphibians. There's a lot to see. Not just what we're behind, but over at the back and the island over the far side with the lakes. It's a real privilege to be here and see and enjoy something that's so carefully maintained.
When you came in for the first time, because you've been a couple of times before, I think for us actually, filming, as a gardener, what were your first impressions of this, which is essentially a sort of central London garden?
Well, that's the thing. When you walk through the gates and you come out into here, it's just so much greenery. So the birds and of course the bees over the far side and the pollinators and everything. You're almost in an oasis because there's so much of a canopy of beautiful greenery around, and just over that wall over there, you're right in the heart of the city. There's a feeling of tranquility and calmness. So, you know, it's very special.
Well, you mentioned the bees there, and the palace makes its own honey, but something we didn't realise this morning, they also make their own gin.
Yes, dry gin, which is served at the garden parties, but they use a lot of the botanicals that are grown here as well. Some of the lemon-scented verbena, some hawthorn, and of course mulberries, because they've got the national collection of mulberries here with over 40 different varieties dotted about. So they create the gin as well, and of course honey as well, and the posies that go inside for the Queen whenever she's here. I think that's always magic. If you take cut flowers from your own garden and put them on the windowsill or on the table or something similar, it brings everything together.
Well, apparently, when we finish here, because Alison then is going to pick up, we're racing back to the studio to finish the show, and there is gin from Buckingham Palace apparently waiting for us.
Someone get the ice out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, every summer, the Queen invites thousands of guests to these beautiful grounds for her annual garden parties.
And with the royal event in full swing, Phil Vickery visited the Buckingham Palace kitchens to help them prepare.
The kitchen is the heart of any home, and with its 775 rooms, Buckingham Palace is no exception. This is where the magic happens. team of top chefs work around the clock in this kitchen to make exceptional food for some rather exceptional guests. From the exquisite state banquets where the head of state, the Queen, hosts impressive dinners served in the palace ballroom to members of the royal family and their notable guests, to the hors d'oeuvres and sandwiches enjoyed by the 24,000 guests a year invited to Her Majesty's garden parties. You know what surprises me? This kitchen's been here for 150 years. It's thoroughly modern and updated. However, if you look a bit closely, you'll see a few nods to the past. There are Victorian ovens, more than likely used to make, amongst other dishes, Victoria's sponge cake, named after Queen Victoria, who would regularly eat a slice with afternoon tea. And there's the large cast iron rotisserie. Now, this is an impressive piece of kit. This is basically a clockwork rotisserie. Weights would hang down, the fire would be there, and things would be roasted in front of the fire. Wonderful. There's also a collection of copper pots that are older than the kitchen itself, dating back 200 years. Now, if you look here, this is Queen Victoria on here, and George V. So I wonder what would be cooked in these. I think, gosh, it must be chickens and fish and stocks and stews and all sorts of lovely things. Wow. I bet I can tell a few stories. The pots were inevitably used to prepare for the extravagant garden parties that have been taking place at the palace since 1868.
Stately grounds of Buckingham Palace were the rendezvous for nearly 8,000 guests who had been invited to the first of the season's royal garden parties.
The parties were originally presentations for debutantes, but have since become a celebration of ordinary people, with guests from all walks of life invited. And overseeing the preparations for this year's events is head chef Chris Tomling, who has worked at the palace for 6 years. Absolute pleasure to meet you, Chris. It really is. And thank you so much. I feel real privileged to be here. So this is the main kitchen. So whether you're cooking for 5 or 10 or 5,000, they all come from these kitchens.
All from these kitchens.
What's on the menu today?
We're preparing for a garden party, which is for 8,000 people. So...
8,000?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So on a garden party then, how many sandwiches do you make?
20,000.
20,000. And tea?
Last count was about 26,000.
And cakes?
20,000 including scones.
Really?
Yeah.
You've got your work cut out, haven't you?
We have.
Good grief. With thousands to cater for, I probably should stop distracting Chris and muck in and help.
Dust it with some flour and then just gently pin it out to about 2 centimetres.
We're in the pastry kitchen making scones, a staple at any British party.
Keep going, we've got quite a few to do.
With households up and down the country planning on hosting special Platinum Jubilee street parties this year, I use this opportunity to find out how to make scones worthy of the Royal Seal of Approval. If I asked you one tip about scones, what would you say to me?
Mix it very lightly, let the dough rest, let it prove, roll it out gently, and then punch them out nice and sharp to get a definitive shape.
So that lovely soft edge.
Yeah.
And some chefs milk the top, but you egg yours.
We egg them.
You must be incredibly proud to be here. I mean, for instance, when I walked in today, I thought, oh, I'm going to Buckingham Palace.
Yeah. When you come in, you literally have to take a deep breath and sort of say, God, I'm walking into Buckingham Palace today. Absolute privilege to work here.
Scones prepped. We bung them in the oven, and after 12 minutes, they're ready. They look absolutely perfect, I have to say. Jam or cream first?
Cream.
Really?
Definitely.
OK. That's a cool bit of controversy. And to go with the cream, well, there's some royally good options. Now, I didn't realise that you have Buckingham Palace honey.
Yeah, it's from the gardens in the palace. We have our own beehives.
Windsor white peach jam?
Peaches are from Windsor Castle Estate.
Wow.
We also get apricots. We'll be expecting them in the coming months.
Black currants, where do they come from?
Balmoral.
That's deeply impressive. Absolute perfection. The crowning glory of scones. Don't get better than that, Chris, does it?
Doesn't get any better.
Well, Phil is joining us now in the bow room with some of the delicious scones.
And the big question is, has the controversial cream tea debate finally been settled?
Well, it hasn't. It just got even bigger.
It's kind of been ignited, hasn't it?
Well, you see, I've got to sit on the fence here because Chris showed me that way, And that's when I'm here, that's the way it's done.
Well, because I grew up in Cornwall, I'm very much the other way round. And so this morning, and I'm hoping I'm not going to get anyone into trouble, but I did say, is there any way I can just have one the other way round with the jam first and the cream on top? And I was told very politely that is not the Buckingham Palace way.
Well, when you come here, you see, when you come here, you eat exactly what Her Majesty eats as well. So that's what you have.
And obviously, did you have to behave yourself in the kitchen?
I did behave. I always behave myself, Holly, I like to say.
Good.
But it was lovely to be in the kitchens where parts of it, as you see on the film there, were still fantastic. And where they still had the rotisserie, they still had Victorian ovens, meticulous detail, absolutely meticulous. Look at this here. So I'll just show you this bit here. When they're making sandwiches, they cut them in fingers, 20,000, as we've said, and then what happens is, watch, they roll it on its side, and they'll even take off the corners.
No.
Now, that is done for 20,000 people at a time.
That's incredible, isn't it?
So it is that detail. It really, really is.
I've just tried this. I don't normally like cream, I have to say. I've just eaten that, and that's actually very nice. Your jam's a bit special, isn't it?
Right. Well, when we made the scones, one thing Chris told me was that they actually make the dough and leave it to prove, which I've never done before, because it has a raising agent, it makes them lighter, so we cook them out. But anyway, we cook those off, and that's fine. And a lot of the fruit comes from the estate. So blackcurrants, which you've got there. Raspberries come from Balmoral. But this is my absolute favourite. This is Windsor peach jam. So this comes from the hothouse at Windsor. Make the peach jam, and it's on the scones. So they're absolutely delicious. Would you like to try one, Holly?
Yes, I will. I'll take one and I'll nibble it in the break.
Don't drop any crumbs on the carpet.
Oh, don't. I don't want to hold it.
I've been told.
I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to read to the break.
Don't take it back.
No, it's fine. I'll just hold them. I don't want to move. I'm just frozen on the spot. Still to come. It holds some of the most famous artwork in the world. Oh, God, they let me in there. We'll be taking you to the Palace's incredible picture gallery.
And Gott will be looking back at the Queen's timeless style as he joins us with a very special outfit from Her Majesty's wardrobe. That's coming up after the break.
Welcome back. Well, we're very excited to be joining you live from Buckingham Palace this morning to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
Already explored Her Majesty's magnificent garden with David Dominy and Phil Vickery. He's given us a glimpse inside the royal kitchens.
For now, we're heading up the beautiful grand staircase, as you can see behind us, which is lined with historic portraits of members of the royal family.
After being hung by Queen Victoria, these portraits have remained on the walls ever since.
Isn't that amazing? They include paintings of Queen Victoria's immediate family, including her grandparents, George III, and Queen Charlotte, and her parents, the Duke and Duchess.
Do you need my arm,
Kent.
Cinderella?
Yes, please, thank you.
This staircase leads guests towards the staterooms where visitors might be attending maybe a banquet or receiving an honour from a member of the royal family.
Imagine the nerves as you walk up these stairs. You're going to go and get your honour or something like that.
Well, also for us, the fact that we're here and it's just us.
I know.
So
Makes
we're
you want to run through the halls.
Walking through the East Gallery.
Yes, we're going to take you to the wonderful picture gallery. This is an incredible place.
So just through these doors is the gallery. It's home to some of the most famous paintings in the royal family's art holdings, including works by Rembrandt, Canaletto and Vermeer, to name just a few.
Yeah, the pictures and frames in this room are only dusted occasionally, and many are glazed to protect them.
It's also served as the backdrop to Princess Eugenie's engagement announcement to Jack Brooksbank in 2018.
And this room was created by George IV in 1820 when he had the famous architect John Nash draw up the plans.
Sadly, he never saw it completed as he died in 1830 when the gallery was finished in around 1836.
Well, to tell us a little bit more about this remarkable room, we're joined now by Anna Reynolds from the Royal Collection Trust. And thank you for allowing us in this incredible space to look at these incredible paintings, one of which is here. Just tell us what it is we're looking at.
This painting is by Rembrandt, who's one of the most important artists of the 17th century. He was working in Amsterdam, and it's called The Shipbuilder and His Wife. And what Rembrandt does that's so unusual is that at this time, it would have been more common for a portrait of a husband and wife to be in two separate portraits and probably to be quite formally posed. But here, Rembrandt's turned it on its head and included them within the same picture frame here. And there's a story going on. We can tell that something's happening. The wife, Greet, has actually come in and interrupted her husband's work. He's busy designing. He was a shipbuilder, hence the title. And she's interrupting him and showing him this really important message. It's so urgent. He must read it right now.
And so what's extraordinary, and I know if you come here and there are a lot of people, you have to, obviously, for safety, put sort of barriers around, but you can get really, really close.
Yeah.
And the hands.
The hands, they're literally like flesh and bone, aren't they? I mean, just to do that with paint that's what Rembrandt is really so amazing at. And you can see he signed it on this piece of paper here, right at the front. He's very proud of this.
How long has it been here for?
It's been in the collection since 1811. George IV bought this. It was his most expensive purchase, and he bought a lot of pictures. This was the most expensive one he ever bought, and it's really one of the masterpieces
What
today.
did he buy it for?
It was for 5,000 guineas, which is just over £5,000.
And now priceless, I imagine.
Yeah, it's definitely priceless.
Yeah. OK, let's move on to another one as well. And you wanted to show us this beautiful Venice painting here.
Yeah, so this is by Canaletto. Canaletto was born in Venice, worked in Venice, and there are actually 10 paintings by Canaletto in the Picture Gallery at the moment. That's more than we've ever hung in here. And this one is a view across the Grand Canal towards the Church of Santa Maria della Salute. But what Canaletto was actually trained as a set designer. So he takes the view and he slightly modifies it to make it even more beautiful and perfect for the purposes of being in a painting. So he slightly reduced the size of that column on the right-hand side, just so it doesn't interfere with the size of the building behind.
And you say that there are quite a few Canalettos in here at the moment. Yeah. Are they on rotation? Do you have some sort of in storage and think, oh, let's bring that one out?
We try and ensure that the best paintings are on view to the public as much as possible. Paintings go on loan to other exhibitions, to other institutions, and we do our own exhibitions, so we have to move things around. We actually have an exhibition at the moment with 33 paintings from the Picture Gallery here up in Edinburgh, so we then had to bring in pictures from different residences to kind of fill the gaps, but some of the real stars are still here.
Do you know what you don't realise is how light it is in here?
Yeah.
Because when you walk in, you never really see kind of the light coming through. Do you have to protect the paintings and be careful?
Yeah, we do have to be careful with the light, but not so much as we would have to do with works on paper. Those are more sensitive to light. Oil paintings like this, it's OK. And actually, the roof's just recently been cleaned, so it's brighter than it's ever been in here. It looks really good.
There's a Vermeer over here, which is really... We were looking at this earlier on, and it's really very special.
Yeah, so this is one of only 35 paintings that are known to be by Vermeer in the world. And it's really one of the ones that we get asked most questions by the public.
Because of The Girl with the Pearl Earring.
Yeah, many people know of it from that film in which Vermeer was played by Colin Firth. But I think also it touches people because it's so relatable. It's two people in a room together having a quiet moment. But when you look more closely, there's all sorts of things that you didn't quite notice in the beginning, like the mirror in the background. So the woman, she's actually looking down at the virginals, this kind of early piano, but then in the mirror, she's looking towards the man. So
see, I think that she's playing the piano, but the mirror is showing that she desperately wants to look at him.
It's like a love story.
Yeah, it's like a triangle between the three of them, yeah.
And you say that he, sort of every little piece in that was very carefully placed, everything had purpose.
And if you look closely, things are just touching or just aligned. It's not kind of an accident that the jug is placed exactly where it is and the chair is where it is.
And the blue that he painted with was at the time incredibly expensive.
So the blue pigment, remember, no paint tubes available at this time. The pigments have to be ground up into powder and mixed with a medium. And he uses this really expensive blue pigment, ultramarine, across the whole surface, even in the floor and the ceiling, which is really unusual.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your time.
On the subject of priceless pieces of art, in just a moment, Gokwan will be joining us. He's not the priceless piece of art, although you say he was. He's got a special item from the Queen's wardrobe.
But first, in 70 years, Her Majesty has never put a foot wrong when it comes to her fashion choices. Here's a look back at some of her most iconic outfits. In 1947, Queen Elizabeth II was married in one of the most iconic royal wedding dresses of all time. She famously saved her rationing coupons to buy the material for her dress, like many brides during post-war Britain. The exquisite design by Sir Norman Hartnell featured delicate pearl and crystal embroidery and a dramatic 13-foot train. For her coronation 6 years later, the then 27-year-old Queen wore another spectacular gown designed by Hartnell. The dress, which is richly decorated with embroidery and pearls, is regarded as one of the most important examples of 20th century design. During her 70-year reign, the Queen has met with 13 American presidents and each time has dressed to impress. But her most dazzling look has to be the royal blue ball gown, which she wore to meet President John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jackie Kennedy at Buckingham Palace in 1961. The tulle dress was styled with white satin gloves and jewellery embellished with diamonds and sapphires. Her Majesty also wowed in a cream-embellished gown when she attended a state dinner in San Francisco with President Reagan in 1982. The Queen certainly never lets her style slip when she's on a royal tour and has sported some of her most striking looks overseas. Among the most iconic of her ensembles worn abroad is the figure-hugging white lace dress when attending a garden party in Sydney in 1954. Years later, on a visit to Mexico in 1975, the Queen donned a memorable yellow polka dot dress accompanied by a matching turban hat, which would become one of her signature accessories of the 60s and 70s. When back on home soil, Her Majesty is known for enjoying an evening at the theatre, and it's nights like this when she's worn some of her most show-stopping outfits. Like these from the 60s, a beautiful coral evening gown with her signature pearls, followed by her most standout look to date, a Harlequin-style sequin top and full-length yellow silk skirt at the Royal Variety performance. Her Majesty remains a style icon to this day and continues to inspire with her elegant and colourful outfits that are truly fit for a queen.
Well, we're joined now by Gok in the picture gallery.
I know.
Allowed this close.
We're not allowed to touch the clothing, obviously. I mean, if you imagine, probably the most famous person in the world and probably the most photographed person in the world, every single outfit needs every single attention to detail. This outfit was designed by Angela Kelly, who is the Queen's chief advisor, personal assistant, head of wardrobe, and it's so beautiful. Worn
it really is.
At the Diamond Jubilee back in 2012. The detailing, go on.
I'm just looking at it. It's the textures, the different textures that have been layered up together, even though it's all that beautiful tonal, like the sort of chiffon round there,
absolutely.
This, and
the tiny little gems on there as well. I mean, you cannot see a single stitch detail, which is absolutely amazing. Now, if you imagine if you are the most photographed person in the world and you've got all those royal engagements, how many of these outfits need to fit perfectly, need to be worn for all of them? You need to be on show because you are up for speculation. People are looking at what you're wearing, the covered button details, the length of it, the length of the sleeve, how it fits on the shoulders. And it is so beautiful. I honestly cannot see a single thing from a tailoring eye, cannot see a single thing that is off here. It's so gorgeous.
And so is it that the Queen is a huge support of British designers and exclusively wears British designers.
So the only monarch in history ever to wear British designers. You know, her wedding dress was designed by Sir Norman Hartnell, Hardy Amies. In recent years, Angela Kelly and Stuart Parvin. So all these great British designers. And you know, and she really cares about the way that she looks. You know, wears lots of bright colours. Sophie, the Duchess of, the Countess of Wessex, has said that she wears all the bright colours because she wants to stand out from the crowd. But if you imagine you're on show and it's your responsibility to be representing that moment, you have to be seen, which is why we see all those gorgeous bright colours. In particular, I think her favourite colour is blue to wear.
Didn't she say, I think she said once, a queen has to be seen to be believed.
Absolutely. And we kind of see that. You know, I did Royal Ascot, the fashion Royal Ascot for many years, and we'd get so excited before Her Majesty arrived to see what colour she was wearing. People put bets on it. It's, you know, it's a big part of our culture and absolutely phenomenal.
What about accessories? Because, of course, the shoes and the handbag.
Shoes and the handbag. So the handbag, and I love this story because I got to go to the factory many years ago and meet the people that make the handbags. So the company's called Lorna, and the handbag, she wears 3 different handbags, which is a leather diva bag, and she has a Traviata and also a custom-made one, and they are custom-made for Her Majesty. So it's the length of the strap on the arm is extended slightly so it doesn't ruffle and crease the jacket. The lining inside is bespoke to a light silk, so it's not too heavy, and speculation has it that inside the handbag there's some mints and a crossword, which I love. I can talk about mints and a cross. I hope that's true.
And Lippy.
And Lippy, exactly, because you never know. And so then we've got the gloves from Cornelia James. She's worn the same gloves. Only 5 people work in that factory, and it's down in, I think, West or East Sussex, which is gorgeous. And the shoes from Anello and David, you know, great London designers. And so, you know, every single moment is put into this, and it's just so gorgeous. And I love this glove fact. Apparently, somebody who worked in the factory many years ago had exactly the same hand size as Her Majesty, so they would model the gloves. And I love that.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Every single detail is in there.
Yeah.
What about the jewellery?
So the jewellery, so always Her Majesty's seen with a brooch on her left-hand side. There's actually an exhibition happening in Buckingham Palace of 2 of the most famous pieces. I'm going to read them out because I get the names wrong constantly. But the brooch is, there's two pieces. The brooch is called... Here we go. Oh, help me.
Well, they're quite often emblems of the Commonwealth countries,
That's right,
aren't they?
absolutely.
So there's sort of different ones. We can see them on the monitor here.
We've got it here,
different ones that she's worn over the years for different events.
Exactly. They're always on there. They're always on show. Obviously, always very precious. Now, if you want to come and see the exhibition, there's going to be the diamond diadem, which is made of 1,333 brilliant cut diamonds.
And that's the one that she wears on the stamp.
On the stamp. So that's how we all know it. It's iconic because we've all posted this, and that's globally known. It's absolutely amazing. And then also as well, we have got the Delhi Durbar necklace as well, which incorporates 9 emeralds and an 8.8 carat diamond pendant cut from the Cullinan diamond, which is the largest diamond ever found. And you can see that at Buckingham Palace, which is amazing.
That's a bit special.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I know.
I
We'll feel like that
literally
today.
cannot believe that we are here in the palace, in this gorgeous gallery, looking at Her Majesty's clothes. I can't believe this.
Well, the Tower of London, go to the Tower of London and look at the crown jewels as well.
Yeah,
because they're extraordinary.
Yeah. I'm going to have to give myself a year. I'm going to have to give myself a year to get over this, because it is just too much.
Scott, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, still to come, he managed to turn the UK's Eurovision fortunes around. We'll be joined by singing sensation Sam Ryder as he prepares to perform at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee concert. We'll see you after the break.
Welcome back. Well, we've headed into Buckingham Palace's beautiful music room now, which has hosted a number of royal christenings.
Yes, Prince Charles, Princess Anne and Prince William were all baptised here by the Archbishop of Canterbury with water from the River Jordan.
In just a moment, he brought the nation together for one very special night. We'll be speaking to Eurovision star Sam Ryder.
Can't wait to talk to him, but before that, we thought we'd better check in with Alison, who will be taking over from us until we get back to the studio. How you getting on, Alison?
Yeah, I've got this, guys. I hope you're having a lovely time. I'm very, very jealous indeed. But we've got loads planned for you when you get back, from decorations to delicious treats. I'll have everything you need to throw the ultimate Platinum Jubilee bash. Plus, Clodagh McKenna, she's making sure you're the star of your street party with some delicious canapes. Plus, I'll also be speaking to 3-year-old Isla, because she loves dressing up as the Queen. So I'm really looking forward to you joining me, guys. I miss you so much, and I am really jealous.
We'll be back there in a bit.
We'll be with you really soon. See you in a bit. Thanks, Alison. Now, after decades of disappointment, for once, it wasn't nil point for the UK at this year's Eurovision Song Contest.
Sam Ryder finally made all of our Eurovision dreams come true when he soared his way to second place with an incredible 466 points.
Well, we'll be talking to the spaceman himself next, but first, let's take a look back at his amazing performance.
United Kingdom.
First 12.
12 points.
Oh, yes! Everyone with a credit to themselves and a credit to what Eurovision is all about. Unity, peace, love, togetherness, inclusivity and expression. Thank you just for having us. Appreciate it.
Oh, well done. Oh,
well
after
said.
that, I know, beautifully said.
Emotional watching
I know,
that too,
it does feel like that, doesn't it? Welcome. I mean, 10 days ago, Everything changed for you, didn't it, really, in that moment? Yeah, now you're at Buckingham Palace. Has it sunk in?
I mean, it's just so wonderful watching that and being around your pals, like with that news coming in and all of us just sitting on that couch, had no expectation of what could possibly happen. I remember chatting with you just before we left. We were going there just for the enjoyment of music, like we were saying, and the whole team just pulled together in such a positive way. It just couldn't have happened without that team effort.
Well, we always want to be positive. I mean, you were great, song was great, everything great, but in the past that hasn't made any difference whatsoever. We haven't done very well. Do you go into it thinking, as I think you sort of hinted there, listen, this might not come to anything, but at least it's an amazing experience?
Yeah, there's definitely an essence of, like, relinquishing all control. Like, there has to be an element of trust, I think. Like I said to you last time, Phil, like, I've been singing a long time, and most of that time's been to empty rooms, but it never affected the joy that singing and music brought me. I was already fulfilled before stepping foot in Turin or saying yes to the opportunity of Eurovision. I was already happy, and it was just an absolute bonus to experience that as a fan from the other side of the TV screen.
Yeah, but I mean, a big stage, a lot of people watching, and getting up there and knowing that the whole country is looking to you and relying on you and willing you to bring this home finally. How do you contain the nerves in that moment? Because the vocal was incredible.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, again, being around your friends, that's so crucial, because the attitude and the kindness and the positivity and the empathy of people and your friends around you, it picks you up when you're down, and likewise, we can pick each other up when we're down. We keep the team going. And you stood backstage, you've got 40 seconds. The crew are amazing. They can turn that stage around so fast. So you haven't got much time to think about it. You don't want to build it up in your head too much, like, this is my big moment, because you're likely going to ruin the first night.
What about that moment? I mean, it's a long moment because it takes a long time, but when the votes started to come in and you could see what was happening.
Well, you mean you can see before that, the first point came in, the smiles on our faces, just being there. The arena, I swear, it feels like a church, because there's just so much joy and togetherness. Like, it's amazing. And to be part of it, it's tangible, the joy and unity in that room.
Well, I mean, after the jury vote, you were right up there. I say we, like we had so different. It does feel like we were all behind there, part of it.
And that's the magic, because it did feel like that when you were there, like we were all together.
We've done it. It felt like you were in the top spot then, and then obviously when all the countries started voting in Ukraine, were just in front of you. But again, like, for this year especially, to kind of come second to them, it was the right thing.
Perfect result. We were all sitting there. You can see us cheering when their results came in, and rather our results at the end. So, like, meaning that they'd come first, because it's so important. Eurovision is about that solidarity and shining light into darkness through music. Music is always the thing. Countless times where we've been in turmoil, music is the first thing we turn to. So it was important that Eurovision did that.
And nothing more important than that on the 4th of June, because one of the few artists to perform at the Platinum Party at the Palace, so you'd be back, and you get to perform amongst Queen and Adam Lambert, Diana Ross, Rod Stewart, Duran Duran, Andrea Bocelli, Alicia Keys, Hans Zimmer, George Ezra. It's a big old lineup, isn't it?
It's unreal. Hearing you say it, like, I can't... I'm so happy and so grateful for the opportunity. I'm a bit speechless, so apologies, but it's just wicked to experience something like that and be invited. I couldn't be happier.
Well, you're going to have to do some to top the outfit you wore at Eurovision.
We're on it.
That was an incredible outfit, by the way.
Thank you so much. Big shout out to Luke and Jenny for making it possible.
It was incredible.
Well, well done, you. Amazing. We were all with you. We all loved it, and it's nice to see you today.
Thank you.
So lovely
Thank you very much.
Well, we have had an amazing morning showing you around Buckingham Palace. Alison will be taking over until we arrive back at the studio a little bit later on.
Before we go, we just want to say a huge thank you to the entire Royal Household team, the Royal Collection Trust and the Coldstream Guards for making today possible.
Yeah, and thank you to Her Majesty the Queen. I don't think without her permission we would have been allowed in here anyway, so thank you, Your Majesty, and also congratulations on a remarkable 70 years on the throne. We will see you in a little while, I think we've got to say, on our bikes.
Yes, I think so.
Alison.